Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, Unicorns and Typewriters. My name is Skylar, and today I am back with another exciting booktube video. So in today's video, I wanted to talk about all of the books that I read in the month of June. So I wanted to do a June reading wrap up. I read some great books this month, so I'm really excited to share those with you. The first book that I read in the month of June was Serpent, Thorn by Melissa Bashardoust. If you saw my haul that I did when I first purchased this book, you know that I was so excited to find it brand new in my favorite used bookstore. So I was able to get it for an amazing price. I just was obviously attracted to the beautiful spine and cover, and I just kind of picked it up for that reason. It was like, oh, this looks interesting and new. I pulled it off the shelf and realized it came out just last year. I was like, well, I have to look this up. So I looked it up online, saw some really good reviews saying that it has cool, like old-fashioned fairy tale vibes, as well as being based off of Persian folklore, which I thought was really cool because that is not something I have ever read before. And it also has queer characters. So I thought, well, that's super cool. And I honestly picked it up because I just couldn't resist picking up this one. It just sounded so good, and it was exactly like what I was in the mood to read. I was really in the mood for like some kind of like fairy tale, basically. I've studied fairy tales a lot in the past. In undergraduate college, I wrote research papers on the Grimm fairy tales, Hans Christian Andersen. I also then later in college wrote kind of a series of humorous essays on fairy tales. So I'm just really into old fairy tales and just dark fairy tales like the Grimm fairy tales. And I've never read Persian fairy tales, so I was like, I have to give this a try. This sounds so cool. So I delved into it and I was not disappointed at all. I absolutely loved this book. We are introduced to our main character, Soraya, who is cursed. And I thought that was really interesting. She is a cursed princess. On kind of the surface level, it doesn't sound like, I guess, the most original thing in the world, but I knew that if it's based on folklore, that it would be interesting and unique, and it definitely was. But on top of that, what I love the most about this book, I think, is that it was such an interesting twist on the idea of being cursed. Most books that you read with a character who is cursed, they're cursed. It's like a very like frog turns into a prince. Basically, the whole focus is on breaking the curse. And that is what this book starts out as. That's kind of the trope that you think is going to play out. And it absolutely flips it on its head, which I completely loved about this book. I think it's kind of interesting. It plays into the idea of sometimes, even if you're cursed, your curse could be protecting you from an even worse curse. And I thought that was just really fascinating, and I just enjoyed it so much. I really loved the main character, Soraya. I really related to her. And I also really loved the fantastical elements in this book. It is based on folklore, but it's as if the folklore is true. There is a lot of fantasy elements, and I really enjoyed that. I thought it was really interesting and very creative and unique, the fantasy elements in the book. I also really enjoyed that there are queer characters. The main character is a queer character. I believe she's like bisexual, I guess, is what I'd place her as, but it doesn't really go into that. And I thought that was really cool to mix such an old-fashioned folklore and a lot of different types of folklore in, and that sort of fairy tale vibe in, with a very modern take on sexuality. So I really, really liked that, and I would highly recommend this book to anyone. Besides the fact that it is absolutely gorgeous and will look beautiful on your shelf, it completely took my breath away. It's one I'll be thinking about for a while, and I thoroughly, thoroughly enjoyed it. So I definitely want to look into her other works. Please let me know in the comments if you also enjoyed this book, or if you've read any of her other novels and suggest them. I should look into those. Let me know what you guys think of them down below if you've read any of her other works, or if you're excited about any of her other works. Yeah, let's talk about it down below. The next novel that I read in the month of June is Never Contented Things by Sarah Porter. I loved this so much. Okay, so I want to start out by saying that I picked this book up definitely because of the cover. I really, really loved the cover. I thought it was so creepy. You guys can take a closer look at it. It has this sort of spooky woman in old-fashioned attire with words on her shirt that appears to be written in blood, and they don't really make sense together. She has this sort of badge on, and honestly I didn't even realize until I read the book that the badge is it's a minx head. So that's explained in the book, but it actually is a character that's in the book. It's not the main character. Definitely this book is so strange and weird and spooky, but when I first picked it up, I wanted to read it just because of the cover. I didn't buy it the first day I saw it and wanted it. It was just on my mind for such a long time. I was like, I have to pick up this book. It's so cool looking, and it sounded really cool too. It's about dark fairies, and I love dark fairies. I've become such a big fan of Holly Black recently because of her portrayal of dark fairies. So, and I've read quite a few other books about fairies as well, and that's kind of like just a subgenre that I'm really into. So I knew I had to get this book at some point. I finally did. It took me a while to pick it up. I've had it for probably about a year now. I finally got to read it. I did look at some reviews just to kind of get a better vibe of what I was getting into. And I saw a lot of people complaining about it and saying really negative things about it, saying that the main character's relationship was creepy. So we've got Ksenia. I hope I'm saying her name right. It's like K-S-E-N-I-A, Ksenia. I don't know, they call her Kezer, so I would almost say it's Senya and say the K is silent, but if they call her Kezer, I feel like the K has to be in there, so I'm gonna call her Ksenia. Let me know in the comments if I'm wrong. But Ksenia and Josh are step-siblings, you would call them. They're not siblings by blood. They're not related at all. They've just been in foster care together for a long time, and they consider each other siblings. However, especially Josh has romantic feelings toward Ksenia, and that is what people were complaining about mostly. And I feel like it is definitely worth mentioning because it is uncomfortable at points to read. It's confusing. It's like, are they siblings? Are they love interests? Even they seem confused about it. Not so much Josh, but definitely Ksenia. She's older and she has a lot of mixed feelings, and it seems like she really doesn't want to have a romantic relationship with Josh, but she also really loves him and never wants to be like taken away from him. And she's about to turn 18 and he's still 16. And that's essentially what is going to happen. They are both in the same foster home right now, but she's going to get kicked out and have to go live independently, live her own life. And the foster parents have made it clear that they want to adopt Josh, and they don't really want her involved in his life anymore because they don't like the, to be fair, very toxic, dependent relationship between them. However, the foster parents are also kind of mean, terrible people who have been really cruel to Ksenia, who's lived a really difficult life, and it's totally not her fault at all, but whatever. I guess their main reason for hating Ksenia is that they think it is her fault that her and Josh have this relationship, when really, if you're reading the book, you kind of know that it's more on Josh, but they think she's a bad influence on him. And they don't seem to like her for a lot of reasons. I mean, she's definitely described as dressing and acting more boyish. However, that doesn't really make sense because Josh is described as dressing and acting more girlish, and if the foster parents are willing to accept that, I don't see why they wouldn't be willing to accept Ksenia, but that's just one little tiny plot hole, I feel like. However, I also guess that they might think that Ksenia is like influencing Josh to be the way he is. Maybe they think if she went away, he would like just be a normal boy. I don't know. So I did pick this up knowing that I had told myself back at the beginning of the month that I was going to read books that related to Pride Month because it was Pride Month in June, and I did want to read books with queer and LGBTQ characters, and I kind of thought, oh, I shouldn't pick this up, but I really have been wanting to read this for a long time, so I did. And honestly, it's kind of hilarious because it worked out super well because the two main characters actually are queer in this book, which I did not know, so yay. So Josh is pansexual and Ksenia is non-binary, and I would kind of place her as being pansexual as well, which is pretty awesome because I feel like I have read so many novels when it comes to representation in YA especially. I've read so many novels with gay characters, lesbian characters, and that's kind of it. I don't see a lot of representation of non-binary characters, and pansexual characters. So I thought that was really cool. My camera cut out, which is super fun. But anyway, I really feel like we don't get the representation of characters that are pansexual and non-binary, which is really cool to see. So I really enjoyed that about this book. I also really just loved it overall, the concept of dark fairies. Josh makes a deal with dark fairies to basically create a parallel world very similar to their own, but weird things happen. It's so like off-putting, and Ksenia doesn't want to hurt him because of their toxic, unhealthy, codependent relationship that, you know, is uncomfortable. But I think it's also realistic, and it touches on something that people have probably experienced and is something that's important to talk about. It's important to talk about all types of relationships. So yeah, basically it revolves around Ksenia, Josh, and their friend Lexi, who Lexi is probably the most sort of normal character in the book. She has a loving family that supports her. Her family is wealthy, so money isn't an issue for her. She's very well educated. She's very well spoken. She's just a well-rounded young lady. And it's about the dynamic between the three of them, who have all three been hurt in different ways and feel guilt in different ways and feel love in different ways. And I don't know, I just really loved it. Like, would I recommend it to everyone? No, not at all. I wouldn't recommend it to people that don't like dark, creepy, horror type stories. And I wouldn't recommend it to people who don't like dealing with tough topics, because it wasn't always an easy book to read. But overall, I absolutely loved it. I loved how unique and bizarre and creepy it was. And I also loved the messages about relationships and friendship and family and how they can mean very different things to very different people. And I really enjoyed that. And I enjoyed the idea of being able to love someone and do the right thing by them in a way that doesn't always seem like how it should go, I guess, and kind of learning to forgive yourself for past trauma. I feel like a lot of these themes were in here, and I just loved it. I thought it was really creepy, bizarre, different, and cool, and had some really cool diversity and representation of characters that we don't see that often. And it had creepy, dark, bloodthirsty fairies. So what can go wrong? Like I said, wouldn't recommend to everyone, but would recommend to people who are like fans of dark, creepy horror, Edgar Allan Poe, Tim Burton. Tim Burton's actually like light and fluffy compared to this, but you know what I mean. If you like darker things, you might like it. If you like dealing with tougher topics and reading about tougher topics, you might like it. It's pretty awesome. I personally liked it, and I'm so excited that I realized that Sarah Porter has quite a few other books that are out and published, and I'm really excited to pick up some of her other books. So I am very glad that I read this book this month. The other 3 books that I read this month are the 3 volumes that are out so far in the Heartstopper series. Oh my gosh, I loved this so much, guys. I read all 3 books this month. I read the first one, loved it so much that I immediately ordered the next 2 in the series. If you want to read something so cute that it literally will make you cry with the cuteness and roll around giggling like a child, I highly, highly recommend these books. They were unbelievably cute. The first 2 books to me were just like cute, like so cute, almost like cringeworthy cute, but you just love it. It's great. But what I really, really liked was that they did also start to delve into mental health in the 3rd book, which is such an important topic. And if you've watched my channel before, you know that it's something that means a lot to me. So they do start to delve into issues of mental health. And I feel like the author, Alice Oseman, just handled it so gracefully and beautifully, and in a way that is so helpful and supportive to readers who might be going through similar issues. And I'm really excited that it definitely looks like that is going to be a theme in the series going forward. So it is an ongoing series, and the 4th book, I believe, is coming out sometime before the end of this year. And also, I read somewhere, I think, that it's going to be a Netflix show. So yeah, you might want to get your hands on this before it becomes a Netflix show, because it's amazing and also one of the most adorable things you will ever read in your entire life. It is about 2 boys that have a relationship, and that is Charlie and Nick. It's about like first love. It's about discovering your sexuality, and it's just it was just it's so cute and wholesome and innocent, and I loved this series so much. 10 out of 10 recommend. I definitely felt like it was a great series to read during Pride Month, but hey, it's a great series to read anytime ever because it's so amazing. But yeah, if you haven't picked this one up yet, I highly recommend picking up the series. They're just a great time, and the artwork is really, really adorable. I'll show you guys a little hint here. As you can see, the artwork is just very cute. It's adorable. I would highly, highly recommend. I also began reading, though I did not get to finish. I only have like a third left, so I'm mad at myself for not getting to finish. But I did start reading Wayward Sun by Rowell. I have the slipcase over here. It's this really cool like Barnes & Noble edition slipcase that I got. I did find this one used in my favorite used bookstore, so that was an amazing deal. But I love the cover underneath. It's so pretty. It has like a moon and stars. I was so surprised when I took off the main cover, which is gorgeous. I'm loving this so far. It also does feature two boys. If you've read Rowell before, you know that this kind of started out as like a Harry Potter fan fiction that was written by the main character of the book Fangirl, and then it spun off into its own series, which is kind of hilarious. I saw some mixed reviews on this one, but honestly, I'm really enjoying it. Like, I'm just having fun. I think people just need to view this series as fun. I think some people started taking it too seriously. I'm not 100% sure though, because I haven't finished, so I'll let you guys know when I do finish. But I just wanted to do an honorable mention because I have been reading this book in the month of June as well, and I almost finished it, so I tried. I really tried. Like this video if you enjoyed watching. Comment down below if you've read any of these books, what you think of them, if you want to read them, if you have any suggestions for me. And subscribe to my channel if you want to see more content like this. I will be back with another booktube video soon. I hope you all enjoyed watching and have a good rest of your week. Bye!